Good morning, my fellow yogic travelers. I'm mighty glad to be alive today, and I hope that you are too, as we continue to live, laugh, love, learn, linger, and live the life we love. Well, is it possible to live in a world today and still feel that I'm a blessed being? My teachers say yes. And the way to do it is to have positive expectation instead of negative anticipation. Orient yourself towards what is positive. Use what you appreciate as your point of focus, because that's the law of attraction is going to help that to be more. Because whatever comes to the forefront of your mind comes to the forefront of your experience. So make the best of every situation to the extent that you can. How can you do that? Well, align with spirit. That's when things go well for you. And then you could say, I'm a blessed being. Now, the parable of the cave, as told supposedly by Socrates. In this allegory, Socrates describes a group of people who lived in a cave chained to the wall their whole lives, facing a blank wall. The people watch shadows projected on the wall in front of them from objects passing in front of a fire that's behind them, and they give names to these shadows. The shadows are the prisoner's reality, but not the accurate representations of the real world. The shadows represent the fragments of reality that we think we perceive normally through our senses, while the objects that are being projected represent the true forms, which we can only perceive through reasoning. That there's a higher level that exists, or at least another level that exists. And Socrates explains that the philosopher is like the prisoner who's freed from the cave and comes to understand that the shadows on the wall were not actually the direct source of the images that were seen. So a philosopher aims to understand and perceive any higher levels of reality. Even if the other inmates of the cave don't desire to leave their prison or don't believe there's a higher reality because they know no better life, the philosopher thinks differently. Hence, that brings us to yoga. Today, I want to talk about the basic understanding from a Buddhist standpoint of what they call the 3 Pillars of the Dharma. If we're not going to be driven by the forces of our own ignorance, and instead deal with what they call the accumulated forces of purity, because you want to make sure that you don't create negative karma by the whirlwinds of desire, hatred, and self-deception. So they basically say, first, be generous. Don't be like a beggarly giver who gives after much hesitation and thought, giving the worst or what's left over. Don't even be a friendly giver, where you give the same amount. You give me this, I give you the same amount. But be a royal giver. Give the best of what you have, freely, open-handedly. Cultivate a kind of magnanimous personality, but not even with the thought that, like, I am doing such. It's giving is a mental factor. It's a quality of mind that you can have spontaneously. It prompts you to open. Next thing is, after you learn how to be a giver, you learn how to also be a moral human being. That means you treat everybody well, just like the yamas in yoga. Non-killing, non-stealing, non-lying, non-body grabbing, non-greediness. Avoid unnecessary useless talk, save your sound current. These are not commandments like thou shalt not. They protect us from accumulating the negative karma that comes from ignorance, from greed, hatred, and self-deception. And then the last thing, of course, is mind training. Learn to meditate. Learn to sit still. Learn to focus. It's hard to have insight when your mind is distracted, jumping all over the place, restless. There has to be a minimal level of concentration in order for you to penetrate and see what's going on. So once you learn how to have strength of mind, right, then your mind doesn't waver, your mind doesn't focus, your mind doesn't flicker. And so we're less at risk to grasp after things when things are just moving and changing and in flux. And then we go with it. We're not so desperate. So when you give, you break the greed factor through non-greed. When you focus on your morality, you learn to love, to feel friendly, not hate. You break the hatred factor. And then, of course, when you're clear, because your meditation helps you see, then you're not forgetful and you break the delusional factor. Non-greed, non-hatred, non-delusion. Try it. I think you'd find you like it.